4 years after debuting the Google TV on underpowered but ultimately acceptable Chromecast 4K hardware, we finally have a follow-up that we've probably been waiting for. This is the Google TV Streamer. So let's get into it. There's really only so much that press renders and photos can tell you about a product. It's only when you get them in your hand and use them in person, you can accurately ascertain what they're all about. And I say that as the Google TV Streamer, while attractive because of its simplicity, actually feels way cheaper than I'd initially anticipated. The chassis is somewhat plasticky. I actually expected it to mimic the rubbery texture of the Pixel stand or the Pixel tablet base station, and while it has a smooth plasticky texture, it's very dense. It feels super sturdy. All that said, luckily the rubberized base is there as well, so it should stick to a surface when you found the perfect position under your TV. And I say under your TV because even Google suggests that this is the optimum location for this new hardware. A hefty HDMI cable might cause some imbalance with this, so that's something to think about. I would say choose your cables wisely. In the UK, where we only have one colour to choose from, that's porcelain, this is an off-white, almost cream colour, which is a big departure from the brilliant white of the Chromecast with Google TV. Toning down the colour makes a lot of sense for the Google TV Streamer though, as it's clearly designed to be integrated more into your home decor. A bright white box might stand out a little more, with the rounded wedge shape also looking more like a smaller ornament than a brand new piece of technology. Luckily there is a hazel colour to choose from if you are in the US. This is limited to the Google Store, but it's actually more of a grey with a slight hint of green, something akin to the Pixel 9 series. It should help you hide this a little bit easier next to things like soundbars and all that kind of things, but as I say, it is limited to the Google Store in the US, so hopefully we do see this a wider expansion in the future, but there's no news on that at this point in time. My only frustration is that this new design is a really big departure from the tried and tested Chromecast, which is plugged into the back of your TV and is only seen when you need to troubleshoot or, in this case, get an upgrade. The Google TV Streamer is harder to hide, which is likely contributed to that muted design, and actually the design choice is to try and blend this into various surroundings a little bit better. While the Nest Hub or a Home Hub has utility on a counter, on a surface, a blob-like box is a little more out of place, at least in isolation. After the original setup process, I left this on my TV cabinet and actually kept it near an older Home Hub, almost to hide it from view. Then I threw it haphazardly behind the gap between my TV and the wall behind it, and I still believe that a streaming stick or a box should be out of sight and out of mind. But credit where it's due though, the Google TV Streamer looks nice compared to the boxy, overly techy looking alternatives, but it will do the same thing. Stream my TV shows and movies, so does it matter? And while I'm being outwardly cynical about the size and shape of the Google TV Streamer, I do really like the style. It's in keeping with the rest of the Google product portfolio. In fact, it feels like the most obvious evolution of the recent Chromecast because of the rounded size, rounded edges, and all those kind of things. For anyone wondering about heat dissipation, I actually haven't noticed the Google TV Streamer get overly warm or hot to the touch when streaming for hours per day so far. This might degrade over time, but now the thermals seem pretty solid. That's likely due to that increased footprint, obviously, and the ability to dissipate heat across the size of it. So the other big change with this device is the updated remote, and as soon as I took this out of the box, I knew right away that this was the best hardware change. There's obvious size increases here, but Google has made important changes here over the first generation Google TV remote. So if, like me, you have fairly large hands, then the upgrades are going to be noticeable right away. At the rear, there's a dimple on that battery drawer. It's now marginally deeper, or the groove itself is marginally deeper, so that you can rest your index finger in for some extra comfort and stability when you're holding it. It was such a tiny change, I have to admit I hadn't even anticipated it, but I love this little extra attention to detail. I will say though, it will take some time to get used to the new button placements here. The home button moving into the dedicated Google Assistant slot has broken my muscle memory, but I think it's sensible to have the back and home options just beneath that main navigation circle or main navigation buttons. The same goes for the volume controls. Now that they're on the face of the Google TV Streamer remote, I'm actually not making as many erroneous volume changes or incremental adjustments. It feels like a classic remote, and I say that in the best way. Changes in the button material have also changed the experience of using this new physical remote as well. Each button has slightly less travel and a little more click when you actually press them. However, I am comparing to a 4-year-old Chromecast with Google TV remote that has been thoroughly put through its paces every single day during that 4-year period. So the material of each of these buttons is definitely, I'm going to say, less rubbery this time around. I'd liken it to softer plastic, but it is a rubber composite. Google decided to add a dedicated button to help you find your remote on the back of the Google TV Streamer. I think this is neat, but I do prefer asking the assistant to find my remote, then hearing the beep from that, which does get quite loud, I must admit. It's much easier to pinpoint the remote control when you're not over by your TV and away from the most likely last location of it, which is probably going to be a couch like it is for me. It is a great option to have though, I must admit. One final note on the remote though, the colour appropriate AAA batteries return once again, and once more the unnecessary but excellent attention to detail is something I can't help but love. With a larger form factor means we're going to have different port selection, and there's more ports at the back of the Google TV streamer. We're gaining a dedicated HDMI 2.1 port, Ethernet cable slot, and that accompanies the USB-C power and expansion port. So in the box you get a USB-A to C cable and a USB-A power brick. I figured we actually might have moved on from USB-A by now, but this is a low power device, so it doesn't matter all that much. In fact, it actually only draws around 2 watts of power when in use, so it means you should be able to power the Google TV streamer via a compatible USB 2.0 port on your TV. It is worth testing this out though before you commit to less cables, as I found that this doesn't work on some of my LG TVs, but your mileage may vary, and Google is actually making this a little bit easier this time around to get power to this device. One saving grace is that Google bundles in a 1.8 meter, or around about 6 foot, high quality USB A to C cable, so reaching a wall outlet shouldn't be a problem if you do need to do that. If you don't have a spare HDMI cable lying around, you will need to go and grab one though, because Google does not provide one in the box. So while we have more ports and more power, I'm actually a little bit miffed that the new streaming device lacks the ease of just plugging the Chromecast into the back of your TV with its really neat integrated HDMI connection design. The Google TV streamer is yet another iteration of the impressive but not fully realised Google TV system, and for the first time since the move away from Android TV in all but name, I can confidently say that this is the best experience that a first-party system has offered and delivered. Right out of the box, I was struck how much smoother it was using the TV streamer over the Chromecast, and even my Nvidia Shield TV. There was no millisecond of processing when you tap or press a button, which is something that has frustrated for a long time. It's not completely lag-free or free of lag, it's just almost not there, or you won't notice it anywhere near as much. There isn't a pause or hang when opening a movie or TV suggestion unless you've just started up the device. I'll stop short of calling it snappy, but it is a massive improvement. One thing that is a little frustrating that it isn't as much of a problem in general use is that this still uses Wi-Fi 5. I'm not sure if the extra processing power helps, or if it isn't even a better wireless chip in here, as the hangs that I sometimes would have when loading previously playing YouTube videos seems to be being obliterated with the new hardware. Although Google also hasn't confirmed the new chipset, we do know that it's powered by the MediaTek 8696. This isn't a particularly powerful processor in any sense of the word, but in terms of raw performance, the Nvidia Shield TV Pro actually remains undefeated as a known streaming product. There are others on the market which will put that one to shame as well. Put it this way though, you're not going to be doing too much gaming on the Google TV streamer, rightly or wrongly. And although the performance uptick may have been a reported 22%, which doesn't seem all that much, the 4GB of onboard RAM really does ensure that you don't hit those lag spots anywhere near as often. Another notable upgrade is that the Google TV streamer now comes with what I'd consider a whopping 23GB of usable storage right there out of the box. It's not going to be a media server, but you should be able to expand that as well if you really need more space. I will say this upgrade alone renders my USB-C hub a little bit redundant, and I wouldn't suggest doing that now because there doesn't seem to be much need. I'm glad that I won't have to suffer through shuffling around apps on external storage just to get things working as they should. Google TV, as far as the software goes, is visually identical, but as I alluded to earlier, it has gained a few new tricks that do help tie things together more so than ever before. We know that the first step was bringing in all of your services into one accessible place, and now it feels like Google is integrating your other accounts and smart home tech into probably the most obvious focal point in your home. I have to say I've been loving the Google Home integration. Checking camera feeds or controlling lights from your TV with the remote is perfect. The ability to get doorbell notifications on your TV is expertly implemented, although I've only tested it in a few hypothetical scenarios. Delivery drivers aren't actually as consistent enough to always press my Nest doorbell when dropping things off, that's why. By default though, the system will nudge you to assign your Google Home account to the new shortcut button on the remote. I was skeptical of doing this at first, but it's actually been quite useful. I think I might actually switch it out to another app at some point in future, but I've found using the quick settings sidebar is fine for making those smart home adjustments, and I think that seems the most sensible, at least as far as I'm concerned. The Google Assistant is also way faster at responding, which makes me want to use it much more this time around. I'm intrigued to see if or how Gemini is ever going to be drip-fed into the Google TV experience, but for now, the assistant is still here and it's doing a better job than it ever has previously. The thing is, AI is playing a more integral role in the Google TV streamer, including AI generated summaries for recommended content that you'll see on screen. I wanted to actually hate this feature, but I can already see the value in it. Google TV is set up to put content right there in front of your face if you didn't already know, and this can get a little overwhelming at times, and the sea of samey stuff and samey generated content can be really difficult to sift through. I think getting a snippet of information about a show that Google TV thinks you'll like is actually better than just a title and the service that you can watch said recommendation on. When you open up these now, you'll get an overview of what the content is about, plus a brief plot summary outline. So far this has been fairly spoiler free, but I do wonder if AI will ever ruin a movie by giving me that full plot overview. Sometimes it'll give you some related content information too, which is nice if something is part of a bigger series or even a bigger lineage. The what people are saying option pulls reviews from Google critics and even gives you an overview of any awards or accolades that the show or movie has won. I'm not sure how AI is powering these sections, but the extra information is helpful when you're trying to find the next thing you're going to binge on. The other touted AI feature is the custom AI art screensavers, and I say AI art in air quotes there. Essentially, this is Pixel Studio, but for a bigger screen. You create a prompt, and if it's allowed, you'll get an image that's churned out. The guide rails are more pronounced after the fallout of the initial Pixel Studio launch, but I will say that the results are impressive in my own testing. I'm unlikely to use it though, as even as good looking as some of this AI imagery is, to me it's still AI sludge, but it might be fun for families and those with children wanting to create something that will appear on their home TV screen, and you can play around with this and have a lot of fun with it, especially if you've got younger children. They want to realize something that they might not have the capability of drawing or even envisaging on paper or otherwise. To cut to the chase here, I think while there are many improvements and important changes, the Google TV streamer isn't quite the powerhouse streaming box that many of you out there probably hoped it would be. However, it's a substantial upgrade over the Chromecast with Google TV, I think in the most important ways. To me, it feels like a big hub that Google TV probably ought to be running on, making the TV the main interaction point for all of those other smart home services and entertainment as well. The best changes are the performance and storage uplift though, which was always a complaint levelled at the Chromecast. Sure, I will say, and I do own this as well, the Nvidia Shield TV Pro remains practically untouched still, but you do get improved codec support and a vastly improved Google TV experience here, so it feels more in line with that $99 entry price this time around. I think if the price puts you off, then the updated $50 Walmart On streaming box probably might be better suited to you, and on paper actually stacks up really well against Google's flagship streaming system, and it's half the price. I do think that this is a notable upgrade over the Chromecast, but with some of those caveats. However, those are fewer and far between, at least with more reasons now for you to be excited by the first party streaming box from Google. I want to ask you though, what do you think? Do you think the Google TV streamer is a good product, a bad product, or are you just going to stick with the Nvidia Shield TV Pro, which I think is still the top dog, at least as far as Android TV boxes go? Let me know down in the comment sections below. I want to say a big thanks to our channel members on screen now, and also thanks for watching this video, thanks for making it this far, but until next time, I will speak to you later.